Okay, so welcome to the deep dive. We do things a little differently here,
Yeah, we kind of we take one source, something really meaty.
and we just kind of dive in, like the name implies.
This time, we're tackling this lecture. It's called Jean Baudrillard and the Disappearance of Reality.
Now, you might be thinking, a whole lecture. I don't have time for that.
But that's the beauty of this deep dive.
We're going to pull out those key insights, give you the aha moments.
No need to wade through hours of content. We'll do the heavy lifting for you.
And today, we're looking at how media, technology, and this wild idea of simulation are shaping, well, our sense of self.
Yeah, like, what does it even mean to be real anymore?
Buckle up, folks, because this is about to get really meta.
So one of the things Baudrillard does is challenge this centuries-old idea of a stable self.
Right, like that core you, that identity that's always there.
Exactly. Thinkers from the Enlightenment, guys like Freud and Marx, they all worked with this assumption.
That there's this solid self that can be analyzed, influenced, shaped by forces around it.
But Baudrillard comes in and says, hold on a second, is that really true in our postmodern world?
So are you saying he thinks that self is gone?
Kind of. He argues that it's not so much under attack, but just dissolving, like it's becoming fragmented, almost impossible to define.
I mean, when you think about it, we spend so much time online crafting these personas.
Right. Presenting these idealized versions of ourselves. Is that even us anymore or just a performance?
It makes you wonder, what even is authenticity in this digital age?
Exactly. That's what Baudrillard wants us to question. And this leads us to one of his biggest ideas, this concept of simulation.
Okay, when I hear simulation, I think The Matrix. Are we talking full-blown artificial reality here?
Not exactly, though that's a good visual.
So what is it then?
Baudrillard's idea is more about how the lines between reality and its representation are blurring.
Like a copy without an original.
Exactly. Think about photography. It used to be a trace of something real.
Now you've got AI generating images of stuff that never even existed.
And it's not just images, it's everything. We live in this simulacrum society.
Simulacrum, huh? Sounds fancy.
It just means that our whole social structure, our interactions, are based on these copies, these representations.
So we're engaging more with images and symbols than with actual, real life experiences.
Right. Like, think how much news we get through a screen versus, witnessing events firsthand.
And that leads to this idea of hyperreality, right? Where the simulation becomes more real than real.
Exactly. It's like, Disneyland's version of Europe might feel more European than actual Europe for some people.
Because it's so clean and perfect.
Yeah, it's idealized, controlled, no messy reality to get in the way.
It's like choosing the highlight reel over the whole game, warts and all.
That's a great way to put it. Another example he uses is the movie Jaws.
Okay, I love that movie. Terrifying.
Right, and the point is that fear, that feeling, is probably way more intense than an actual shark encounter.
I mean, statistically, most real-life shark encounters are probably pretty boring.
Exactly. But the simulation, the movie, creates this heightened, hyper-real experience.
It's almost like we're choosing the spectacle over the genuine article.
And what does that do to our relationships if we're more into the simulation than the real thing?
That's a good point. The lecture mentions how technology is changing how we connect, or don't connect, with others.
Yeah, Baudrillard talked about stuff like VR sex, having these customized digital partners.
Which to me sounds kind of sad, like trading real intimacy for something artificial.
The idea is that simulation can become so appealing, so easy and controllable, that real human connection just seems like too much work.
So we might be opting for the easy, instant gratification over the messiness of real relationships.
Potentially, yeah. And this pursuit of quick hits, these fleeting thrills, connects to what the lecture calls the ecstasy of communication.
Wait, ecstasy, like religious ecstasy.
No, not at all. Baudrillard uses that word in a very specific way.
So what does he mean?
He's talking about that rush of intense sensory stimulation, like the jump scare in a horror movie, the visual explosion in an action flick.
Or like leveling up in a video game.
Exactly. It's that immediate feedback loop, the instant gratification that overloads the senses.
So not deep connection, but just pure, almost overwhelming stimulation.
Right. And he suggests, get this, that kids growing up in this environment might actually feel closer to, like, Super Mario than to their parents.
What? Why would he say that?
Because those digital characters, they're always there, they always respond, they provide constant rewards.
While real life, with real people, it's unpredictable. It's not always rewarding.
It makes you think, where do we as adults seek out that same kind of instant gratification?
Maybe in those endless social media scrolls, constantly chasing the next dopamine hit.
Right, and this whole focus on spectacle and image over substance, it's very much in line with Guy Debord's Society of the Spectacle.
Debord argued that capitalism turns everything into a commodity, into an image to be consumed.
And Baudrillard takes that further, saying those images are becoming our primary reality.
It's like their lecture's example of watching Father of the Bride instead of having an actual family gathering.
Right, we're choosing the representation over the messy but real experience.
And it gets to the point where, as the lecture says, the simulation has outrun the so-called reality.
Meaning our engagement with these simulated experiences defines what we think is real.
So where does that leave us? If the simulation is king, what happens to us?
The lecture describes our current moment as this weird in-between zone, a war zone even.
A war zone, that sounds intense.
It's like we're caught between the dying modern world and this emerging postmodern reality.
And in this in-between, there's all this stimulation, this ecstasy, but also confusion and a longing for something real.
Exactly. Like we crave authenticity in this increasingly manufactured world.
And the lecture suggests that the battles of the future might not be about ideology or geography, but about this very tension.
The real versus the hyperreal. The fight to reclaim genuine experience in the face of simulation.
Sounds like a pretty important fight. But the lecture does offer some hope, right? This idea of the revolutionary real.
Yes. It emphasizes that even small choices to engage with the real world over the simulated one can be powerful acts of resistance.
Like choosing to have a real conversation instead of just scrolling through social media.
Or choosing a real date over a virtual one.
Consciously stepping outside the simulation, back into the tangible world.
And the lecture says, wherever there is power, there is counterpower. Meaning, this human desire for authenticity, for real experience, can push back against the dominance of simulation.
So it's not a hopeless situation. There's still room for real connection, for meaning in this hyperreal world.
And some images, some actions can still remind us of our shared humanity, even in the midst of all the spectacle.
But the lecture ends on a kind of ironic note, bringing up this idea of leisure.
Right, this thing humanity has struggled for centuries to have more free time.
And now that we have it, what do? We fill it with more simulation, more screens, more virtual worlds.
So leisure time, this thing meant for enriching experiences, has become another form of alienation.
Almost like we've traded one kind of work for another, from the labor of survival to the labor of consuming simulations.
It's a really thought-provoking point, and Baudrillard doesn't give us easy answers.
He just presents these ideas, this challenging perspective on our relationship with technology, media, and the nature of reality itself.
And he leaves us with this question, what does it mean to live authentically in a world increasingly defined by simulation?
It makes you examine your own life, your own choices, your own leisure time.
Are you truly connecting, experiencing, or just consuming?
We highly recommend checking out the full lecture, Jean Baudrillard and the Disappearance of Reality.
It's a dense one, but it'll really get you thinking about the world in a whole new way.
And maybe, just maybe, it'll inspire you to choose the real over the hyperreal, to fight for genuine experience in this increasingly simulated age.
Because the future of reality might just depend on it.
For food for thought, right.
Definitely. Until next time, folks, keep diving deep.
They keep it real.
Or as real as you can in this crazy world.